Okay, welcome back, everyone. We will reconvene to open session at 5:30. The board did meet in closed session, and we did take the following action. In closed session, the board approved a settlement reached with Custom Building Products Incorporated, United Inspections Incorporated, and Kleinfelder West Incorporated in the litigation titled Merced Union High School District versus Bernard's Brothers Incorporated et al. Mr. Alan Peterson, in his capacity as superintendent, was authorized to sign and execute the settlement agreement on behalf of the board and district, passed with the motion by Trustee Lopez and a second by Trustee Jayasinga. Final disposition, subject to full and complete execution of written settlement agreement by all subject parties, Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Government Code Section 54957.1A3 and B. Roll call vote was as follows. Trustee Pickle, aye. Trustee Ham, aye. Trustee Jayasinga, aye. Trustee Lopez, aye. And Trustee Valadez, absent. So is there a motion to approve student disciplinary cases 71, 72, 73, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, and 80 is recommended?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Then we'll call for the vote then, please. Motion carries 5-0. Invite everyone to stand for the flag salute. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second it.
We'll call for the vote then, please. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, moving on, showcase with Mr. Knott, Merced High School's Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
Good evening. Good evening to everyone. I don't know if this is work. There we go. I'm not going to stand and talk in front of you, and I'm going to speak in a moment. So I'm just going to introduce our leaders of our FCCLA, and I will let them kind of explain what our kids have been up to and what they're going to say tonight. So I'm going to welcome Ms. Meyer, who is one of our FCCLA advisors, and I will introduce Mr. Calcidius, wave your hand up there, and Ms. Wade in the back. They are the other two advisors. So here's Ms. Meyer.
Thank you, Marcus. Good evening, board members. I just want to say thank you for giving us an opportunity to present our students who are student leaders here on this campus at Merced High School with FCCLA. Our students have had the opportunity to have a shared experience with our most recent state leadership conference, and they're here to share some of those opportunities with you, as well as their own personal opportunity for personal leadership and development through FCCLA. So myself, Gina Wade, and Andrew Calcidius have nearly 500 students between the three of us in our three pathways, which would include child development education, culinary, and fashion design. So with those students, they have the opportunity to be involved in FCCLA. And if you're unfamiliar, FCS is Family and Consumer Sciences, and we are to FCCLA what agriculture is to FFA. And so our student organization is FCCLA. So tonight we have a few of our students here to represent. I would like to introduce Isabella Meyer, who is going to share with you a little bit about her experience.
Hi, my name is Bella Meyer, and I was the 2021 to 2022 Region 6 President. We recently got back from State Leadership Conference at the end of April, held in Riverside, California. We had 12 competitors, with 7 of those qualifying for nationals. I will be competing at nationals at the end of June, along with one other member. This was my second year qualifying for nationals and 4th year competing. Through FCCLA, I have held the position of chapter historian, chapter president, and region president. Through these leadership roles, I have been able to drastically improve upon many skills, including public speaking and organization. I never thought I would be taking on these roles because when I came into high school, I could barely talk to a teacher because I was so nervous. But thanks to FCCLA, here I am today, winding up my 4th year and making it count. Thank you. I would like to invite Paige Calcidius.
Hello, my name is Paige. This is my first year in FCCLA, and I'm currently a sophomore here at Merced High School. Although this was my first year actively involved in FCCLA, this is not my first time being exposed to this organization. With my parent being one of the advisors, I have met a multitude of students throughout the year that have been participants in FCCLA, and there are usually specific traits that stand out amongst these students, this being that they tend to be articulate, confident, and well-spoken. Any one of my peers could tell you that FCCLA, in a way, forces you to come out of your shell. It teaches you skills such as public speaking, leadership, and the workings of parliamentary procedure. In addition to all this, you actually feel like you're the one in control of the decisions. Throughout my educational career, I've been in a variety of leadership roles in clubs that claim to be student-run. However, FCCLA has been the only club that really stands true to this title. Personally, this organization has helped me make friends that I wouldn't have otherwise, not only at Merced High, but at schools across the state as well. Prior to joining FCCLA, I wouldn't have had the confidence to compete in a state event, let alone talk in front of a crowd like I am tonight. I also hope to become more involved in FCCLA by running for a chapter officer position. In conclusion, I've grown a lot as a person over this last year, and I have FCCLA to thank for that. I would like to invite Jacob Friedman.
Hi, my name is Jacob Friedman. I'm a junior here at Merced High School, and this is my 3rd year in FCCLA. Members develop skills for life through character development, creative and critical thinking, interpersonal communication, practical knowledge, and career preparation. FCCLA stays true to their goals. If it weren't for FCCLA, not only would I've never found some of the most amazing people on our campus, but I also would have never found the courage to be in a position that I am in right now. As a chapter officer, I learned how to effectively participate in discussion, which I then carried on to the region level, where I no longer collaborated with my peers from my school, but with students from surrounding counties. It was an incredible year-long experience that I wouldn't trade for the world. Intertwined in all of the leadership and character development is a lot of fun. Anyone who has ever attended an FCCLA event can tell you that. But ultimately, FCCLA has led me to try new things, like running for state office. And now I'm able to say with pride that I'm the California FCCLA State Treasurer. When I walked through the arches that say Merced High School on the first day of my freshman year, I never thought that becoming a state officer of any organization would be possible. But I just wanted to survive. And I'm glad that I found FCCLA and it found me. Thank you for providing us with the opportunity to speak tonight. And I want to open the floor to questions.
What did you compete with, Jacob?
I competed in culinary arts, and I placed 3rd in the state.
Awesome, congratulations. And I know all of you gave up part of your spring break to go do that, so thank you to all of you and your advisors.
So when you compete, what does that look like? What are you actually doing?
So like for my competition, like specifically, we used the kitchen at the hotel that we were staying at, and we each had like 2 burners, and they were all lined up, and we had an hour to prepare a whole dish. And we were all given the exact same dish, so they could like judge it evenly. And yeah.
All right, thank you.
What did you make?
It was green beans, almondine, mashed potatoes, and apple cranberry stuffed pork chops.
Yum. You can bring us dinner next time.
Making me hungry.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Great job, you guys. Thank you. Principals report. Mr. Knott.
Well, it's hard to follow that up, but we're very proud, obviously, of our students and all the things that they've been able to do. So again, I will say good evening to the board members, the cabinet members, and all of our guests. Welcome to Merced High School. During the spring semester, I'll just kind of talk a little bit about things that have been going on at the spring semester here. We've really had an opportunity to demonstrate our old motto of being the home and scholars and champions. Academically, there's been a lot going on. Our FCCLA students are just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Our FBLA students have been also doing some excellent work. That's our future business leaders of America. Our FFA students also have been competing at the state and national level. So we are very proud of some of the things they have done and continue to do. Earlier this spring, MHS Academic Decathlon brought back the championship to where it belongs, winning yet another title, and as well as our MHS Battle of the Books team also won another championship. So we're very proud of them academically. This week, I think we'll wrap up over 300 AP tests. I believe we were done on Friday, I think is the last day of testing. So we've had over 300 tests being signed up for our students, so we're very proud of the efforts our kids are making, especially coming off of a year like last year when everything was kind of up in the air. They've really bounced back, and that total has jumped back up where closer to where we wanted to be with the number of kids signing up for tests. So that's been exciting as well. One last thing I want to say academically that we're super proud of, we have 54 students that have already passed the computer portions of welding certifications that will allow them to go and actually be employed when they leave high school. And we have another 29 that are actually doing the physical portion of that testing. They've either already started or they're scheduled to do it next week for the American Welding Society International Certificate, which if you know anything about welding, which I'm learning all of this stuff, if you have one of those certificates, you can work pretty much anywhere in the world. So we're really excited about the students that are going after that venture. Athletically, we were able to, over the course of this semester so far, add 7 more league championships. So that's 9 league championships for our school this year. We are super excited about that as well. We also had 2 of our very own in Isabel Perez-Zogby and our coach, Mr. John Kane, were honored at a section level. Isabel was our female Dale Lackey scholarship winner for the entire section for what she's been able to do in the classroom, on the wrestling mat, and on the track. She runs cross country and track. And Mr. Kane, for his efforts coaching women's golf, he was honored as a model coach for the section, so we're very excited about that as well. And just a few other things that have gone on campus that we're really proud of. We've had we had the long struggle that we went through, and now things seem to be coming back to normal. We had a great group of kids that we hosted prom in Monterey. We had kids who'd never seen the ocean before, and that was really exciting to watch them kind of have to tell them a few times, not that far into the water, but they were, they were excited to get out and actually see and touch the ocean and make that trip. That was really exciting. We had our Bear Fair last night. Our guidance department did a great job hosting our incoming 8th graders, giving them a chance to meet some of their teachers, coaches, pathway teachers, things like that. That was really exciting. We had a decent turnout. And then last week we held our very first Cinco de Mayo celebration on this campus, something that we hope to really get going year to year and make that be a yearly celebration, as well as our first Celebrating Black Excellence luncheon that we had also last week. And lastly, and I know you guys all went out today to see the stadium, we are super excited to have this class of 2022, be the very first class to grace the field at Kathy Hostetler Stadium as graduates. So a lot going on right now, a super exciting time of the year, I'm sure, at every campus, but we can't be happier with everything that's going on. So do anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Knott. Next, we have general public comment period. Do we have any speaker cards? Okay. Then we'll move on to reports and discussions. Superintendent Goals update. Dr. Aguilar, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Inegas.
Thank you, President Pickle. I'm here tonight with my esteemed colleagues, Mr. Torrin Johnson and Mr. Sam Iniguez. to give you an update on our superintendent goals. Our counseling superintendent goal. I wanted to make sure that I first started with the review of the goal, was to set and coordinate the measurable expectations for counseling services that all students should receive and identify how that will be tracked and reported. So what we've done thus far is we've aligned all the counseling services, we've set clear outline of services, we've identified providers for services, and we are ready to implement. However, as we are looking forward to our May 17th meeting with all of our counselors, we are looking to contract with Dr. Trish Hatchings. She is the creator of the model that I have been using in previous board meetings around the different tiers, and it is her curriculum aligned with the national ASCA standards for our counselors that we are looking to continue with all of our counselors and looking to contract with her over the next 2 years to provide the professional development that our counselors are asking for and need. What she has recommended in reviewing the work that we have done thus far is she's asking for us to identify common data points for movement within the tiers for consistency within the district. And then she is also asking for her team to work with our classrooms on classroom lessons that would be given by counselors. It would be at that time that we would then evaluate what it is that we're doing. So there are a couple steps in there that she is recommending and her team is recommending that we follow prior to evaluating or coming up with an evaluation system. So our next meeting will be on May 17th with all of our counselors. I will be sharing this information with them. And we do have some good agenda items to review with them to ensure that we get this launch for our counseling goal off to a great start. Any questions on the counseling work that we have done thus far?
So will this all begin implementation for this next school year? Is that the goal?
That is correct. So all of those bullet points, I don't know if we can get to the second slide there. I have the clicker here, that's why it's not moving. There we go. So the first 3 items that are on here, those are items that we have completed. We are ready to implement, but again, what she is asking is that we add, we slow down just a bit so we can catch up and her team can catch up with us as we start this year to identify common data points and all of the work that we've done. Our team was able to share that with her. Very impressed, and a lot less time that they'll have to work on those things since we've done them this year. She just wanted for our team to be mindful to identify what those common data points are, and she wants to bring her team in to work with our counselors next around lessons, lesson design, and some SEL lessons that our counselors would provide.
So as a parent or a student, how will we feel this change? Like what will we notice? What will be different?
Well, one, we have a really nice graphic that we have to share now with all of our parents with regard to all the different services that should be expected. That's something that we haven't had. 2, you will identify all the different service providers for all the different tiers and levels of support that our students get. And then thirdly, we will be communicating what those different tiers mean, what everyone should be getting, what some should be getting, and few should be getting. And that levels up into the tier, right, that we have. So if you look at the different tier, everyone should be getting a tier 1, every single student. A tier 2 are for the some that need a little bit more, and the tier 3 are for those that need a little bit more extensive work.
I guess at the end of the day, will students feel more supported?
Students not only will feel more supported, but there'll be a better understanding of the different supports that are there for students. And a lot of that has to do, we've organized our closet, right? But then we also have a really nice graphic that we can now share with all of our parents and staff members, so there's a better understanding of the services that are there. If you recall, as we were going through this process, even our own staff members didn't understand or know the services that our students had access to. And if you remember that big graphic that had all of the different service providers, it was a big aha for many of our own parents, students, community members, the number of support that our students have access to. And then again, one of the things that we found as we were going through this process was the overlap of services and then gaps in other areas. So there's much better alignment. There's a graphic now that we can reference so parents, students, staff understand where to send a student as there is need, and the different processes that are used throughout our district for the different tiers.
So is there any conversation about perhaps even a communication campaign around this so that, I mean, it's great that it's there and it's been organized, but if students don't know, it doesn't change anything, right? Because I don't feel that we're sharing this information.
Absolutely, and that's everything that we're launching and moving forward. We're working with Mr. Nigas, and I keep saying, I guess he's moving down the road somewhere called UC Merced. So we hope to keep that momentum going with whatever happens with this position.
In addition to the communication with the students, are there plans to communicate this with parents and build it into the parent engagement so parents know what those supports are for them and for their students at each level?
Absolutely, and that's that was one of the gaps. We're often referring to third party, or again, just not communicating at all with regard to the services that our students have, or we rely on one person, or we think a certain individual or a certain group of counselors are communicating. This will be an all-encompassing communication campaign around all of the counseling services that are being provided.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Dr. Aguilar, how or what ways will this be communicated to everyone? This will start with freshmen as they come in, but how will it continue?
Well, we will make sure that all of our students get this information through their sites and however it is that they're going to do it while students are here. We'll continue to work with all of our students using our Parent Square platform or social media. I know, for example, that I've been on Univision, for example, in Spanish, communicating this monthly around our LCAP and a lot of the services to all of our parents, and then just continuing to open up those avenues with our local media so that parents have a better understanding. I think the big game changer for us is that we actually have a graphic and an agreed upon system of services that we all have agreed on and we've all combed through and we've all discussed, so there are no surprises for anyone as parents begin to call. I think, again, that was another one of our learning moments this year as we're referring to different groups for counseling services. People were unaware, there's some miscommunication. There's a nice structure in place now and references and resources that we can point to for our students.
Okay, thank you.
And since I have the clicker, I will go to the next slide. Oops, I was going the wrong way. All right, our next goal is around math. So again, the goal is to set measurable and reasonable expectations of growth for all students in math in a more meaningful way than CASP scores. We have gone through a process now with all of our teachers, which was completed today. We've gone through the steps thus far of revising the essential standards, reviewing the sequencing, and updating the sequencing with the Carnegie Learning Math. We had some really, really good discussions in our meetings, and I'd like to use the term productive struggle. That's a term that we like to use with our students, right? There were some really hard conversations with our groups of teachers with regard to the sequencing, the standards, and ultimately what we all rallied around was that one of our outcomes and one of our goals was to ensure that we had a quarter 3 and a quarter 4 assessment for all of our students. In doing that, it's a constant reminder that there is no magic number that we're shooting for. Our goal is student growth, individual student growth. Regardless of where students are coming in or where they are in our current system, we want to meet them where they are. And as we're designing and resequencing, we always kept in mind our new teachers coming in, so that when we say supplement or we pivot, we have a very clear alignment and curriculum that we would use that we can point anyone to for support. You will see here at the next slide The different meeting dates, you'll see that May 11th was our last day today, and that was with our integrated math A, B, and C groups. That was by far our biggest group. We will have some work to do next year. Our next steps are around creating now a schedule for professional development around what a student-centered classroom looks like and what it is in math in particular, which is one of the goals. 2 is developing the quarter 3 and quarter 4 benchmarks. We're going to need time to have our teachers out of the classroom to develop what those quarter benchmarks are and what they look like, so there is consistency. One of the areas that I have been very, very careful with my language is that we have to have common assessments across the board that align with one another. So if you can imagine having all of our school sites in a room together, agreeing and moving in one direction. I want to give a big shout out, she's not here tonight, to Miss Stacy Cool, who's been leading a lot of this work. This is not easy when you have a lot of professionals who've been doing this for a while, some that are new and are looking for guidance and trying to get everyone to move in one direction. So just a big shout out to her and the work that she has done. Here is just a quick review of what happened on the week of April 25th, May 2nd, and then here just this last week with May 9th. And as I just mentioned, we just concluded all of this work today. And the big next step for us is Stacy Cool, myself, Mr. Johnson will sit down together and look at one large master calendar so that we can schedule all of this work that needs to be done, while also being mindful that our teachers don't like being out of the classroom, but this is necessary work, and we definitely need all of them in the room to participate and to own this work. Are there any questions around the math work that we're doing in the board goal, superintendent goal?
I know DTA expressed some concerns a few meetings ago, and other teachers have reached out with it. Do you feel like staff is now fully on board? And
I'm going to give you my perspective, and I'm going to take off my administrator hat here for a second and also put on my parent hat. I honestly do not believe 100% that the concerns have to do with curriculum. I think it has to do with the shift in the instruction that we're asking. It's a student-centered focus, the ultimate goal, regardless of what curriculum we use. Whether we decide to move away from Carnegie Learning Math or go with someone else, the focus is not going to change, which is a student-centered classroom. All of the different presentations that you've seen in our school district over the last 4 or 5 years have been with the focus on student-centered classrooms, using universal design for learning, using project-based learning, for example, using our CTE classrooms to ensure that our students are applying their learning. We are now wanting to ask that of our math teachers, and we know that that is the last group that we have asked to do this work. So if you look again at all of our college and career indicators, we have focused on every group and every one of those 6 items. The one area that we have not focused on has been math and English, more specifically around math. So I think there's a lot of just fear of the unknown, perhaps inexperience with the skill set to have a student-centered classroom because we've relied so heavily on explicit direct instruction, which is not bad. We just don't want to do it all the time. So I think that there's a lot of concern and a lot of hesitancy, perhaps a lot of fear, and I think we're finally being able to move forward as we're able to share the different supports that we're going to provide our teachers. And again, understanding and making it very clear that there's no magic number, right? And understanding that there is going to be productive struggle. There will be some bumps in the road as we go along, but we've got to go through those just like we have with all of our other disciplines and subject levels to ensure that we have a subject or a student-centered classroom for all of our students.
Dr. Aguilar, what's the hesitancy on the quarter 1 and quarter 2 benchmarks? We won't have any data to compare quarter 1 and quarter 2 until 23, 24, correct? To see if students are truly either coming prepared or if they're making some sort of gains. I understand you're saying we're not reaching a certain number, but in reality we are. We want to see progress, so we want to see those numbers escalate. as students are taking quarter 1 through quarter 4 benchmarks, because that's what, that's what we're about, data, to ensure that, one, that the programs are working, and then two, the quality of instruction that the kids are receiving. Back to Aaron's point, as far as, some of the concerns with ETA, is the plan is to continue with Carnegie Math, that one, that we're all on board, and two, that we're all using, like you say, the same benchmark. So why delay in the quarter 1 and quarter 2? If Carnegie is the program that we're going to use, I'm sure they have built-in benchmarks in their program. So why spend time on creating our own if they're already built for us?
So we're not doing quarter 1 and quarter 2 because, quite frankly, we have not had the time this year to have teachers out of classrooms. If you recall, we were in a sub shortage.
Right.
We didn't start pulling out teachers, I think, until maybe late February, March. So we didn't have a lot of time. Even the work that we're doing now was really compressed, and we really asked teachers to make some compromise there because we really needed to do this work. Moving, down the road, we will have those in place for quarter 1, quarter 2. We are just compressed for time right now, so we want to give our teachers plenty of time. Many of them are using Edulastic. There are test questions that are there, but the hard part isn't that we're asking teachers to create those test questions. It's just, one, to agree on what those test questions are and backwards map to the curriculum and the standards that everyone will agree to review, right? So that was part of the work that we did with all the groups, integrated 1, integrated 2, integrated 3, what we did today. A lot of it was just having really hard conversations about, do we teach statistics first, if you're in integrated 1, or do you not teach it at all? And, there were some teachers that were really passionate about teaching certain standards and not at all, and at what time, so that we could get ready to create those assessments. So there's a lot of rich discussion, and I will say that from my perspective, I think the teachers really appreciated that, they're going to have that first semester, to be able to get used to Edulastic and have that first semester also to come together as a group and as a discipline throughout the district to put all of those tests together. I feel really good about where we are with the math work. I really do. It's not easy, but the conversations that I've had, I think there's been some really, really good work, some hard conversations that have been had. I know that we, as an Ed Services team, have taken a few steps back to ensure that we're being mindful of ensuring that we don't tip people over along the way. So there's a lot of good discussion. I feel very, very good about where we are. It's most definitely not perfect. It is very difficult. It's very hard. But again, I'll use that term, productive struggle. I think we're definitely moving the needle, and we're having some good conversations with all of our math teachers, and they are with themselves.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Dr. Aguilar.
Good evening. I have the next goal, which is MTSS, Multi-Tiered System of Support. The goal reads, identify and define what services will be provided to all students and who will be providing those services. Staff will have a common understanding of the MTSS terminology and services that are consistent and uniform across the district. The terms that we're talking about for MTSS are high quality instruction, school expectation, academics, behavior and social emotional, benchmarking, screening, and monitoring. The update that I have for you tonight is that all principals have submitted their draft MTSS plans. And number 2, I've included some of the possible measurable outcomes that we could take a look at, some metrics of success with MTSS. So for high quality instruction, possible measurable outcomes could be implementation of student-centered, what level classrooms are at DOK-wise, how often are we doing 4Cs and assessment. And with school expectations and academic behavior and social emotional, some of the measurable outcomes could be suspension rates, absenteeism, SEL lessons, acknowledgement of student behavior towards school goals, and transfer to alternative education. Benchmarking outcomes could be assessment creation and goal setting in the classroom with the kids. And for screening and monitoring, It could be DRC and UDA protocols, 504 IEPs, and the use of universal screening tools. I look forward to working with cabinet and principals and return in June with more concrete language and metrics on that. Do you have any questions?
No questions?
What
Okay.
does DOK stand for?
Depth of knowledge.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Hello. Testing. All right, so next, I have the clicker. All right, our communication superintendent goal, again, to go over that, we're going to outline, the goal is to outline meaningful two-way communication expectations for the school community to go beyond compliance notifications and social media promotions. Again, that two-way communication, just illustrating that we're both sending and receiving communications, feedback from our stakeholders. Some examples of one-way, well, just one-way communication in general. It's linear, it's authoritative, and it's limited. Some examples are flyers, emails, the dialers and the robocalls, as well as the newsletters, right? They're just kind of, we're pushing out that information. There is, again, as you see, there is a time and a place for it. But however, when we get into two-way communication, it fosters, it's more engaging, and that's what we're trying to get at, right, is more parent engagement. So as you can see, it's interactive. There's a sense of equality amongst the communicators. You know, it's not just sender-receiver. Both our parties are senders and receivers at the same time. And it's feedback-oriented, so that's the goal. We want to hear back, and then we want to hear back, and we want to use that feedback in our as we move forward. Some examples: having the in-person meetings, phone calls instead of emails, the parent resource nights. Surveys like with thought exchange, but of course following up, closing the loop, like looking at the feedback and seeing things that can be taken care of right away, and then things that can't right away, but still working on resolving those. Zoom sessions, those are popular, and the Facebook Lives. I remember there was that mention that parents would like to get back to some of those live sessions where they just, a counselor or someone will make themselves available at a certain time, and parents can just drop in and talk to them. Where we're at right now is principals, they are still working on that template that was sent out to them. They have sent in their answers to a lot of those questions, and just to refresh your memory on some of those questions, it's under strategic communications, what ways are you communicating with parents and families? What norms and protocols are there when it comes to daily operations? When it's answering the phone, we want to make sure that, and this was actually a discussion we had in cabinet about answering the phone and etiquette, and getting the right person, getting them to the right person. Speaking to the media, emailing, response times to inquiries, that came up a lot. So just some of those questions for principals to really start putting together some of the actions that they would like to implement in their respective communications plans. And then the other part of communications is telling our own story, with the brand management, and who are we as a school, and what makes us unique, and how are we being innovated, or how are we doing old things in new ways. I have the next. Yeah, so again, April, May is when they're doing that and developing their action steps related to the framework. And then in June, I was planning to have a principal or two come up and join me and share out what their plan is looking like. So I'm sure that's still going to be the plan. That'd be great. Yeah, so that's the update. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
When is your last day?
25th.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you won't be back in June then?
Correct.
So, oh.
He said that's what that's still the plan.
I hope that
So, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to be back for the June meeting, so we won't see you again.
Yeah. You'll see me. I'm not disappearing. I'll be around. Thank you.
Well, thank you, all of you, for that. That was really nice, really, systematic, and where we are, where we're going to go, the metrics. It was, for me, that was very helpful. I appreciated that. Next, we have Employee Association comment period. DTA?
Is it working? Okay. Hi. Before I read my prepared remarks, let me speak to what Costa kind of just mentioned, or Dr. Aguilar, I'm sorry. I took part in those meetings that we had just the past few days. Thought Stacy Cool did a fantastic job running the meetings, created an open and welcoming environment where that feedback was welcome. So I think we are making positive movement. You know, I don't think I'd use the word fear, but change can be uncomfortable. And so time, I think, keeping that in mind, that to make any sort of systematic change requires time. And so if that understanding can be there and a willingness to work with teachers as they make adjustments in how they teach and what they're doing, I think that would be welcome. As far as the assessments, I agree with what Dr. Aguilar said. Having a little bit of time there, allowing teachers to have input on that, I think would be a positive thing for math teachers. I'm also a math teacher, so I can kind of relate to this. And overall, we look forward to continuing to work with the district in a positive fashion to make changes, but have our input and voice heard on that as well. So, thank you. All right, now, my main comments here. So, good evening, President Pickle, board members, Superintendent Peterson, and Cabinet. My name is Robert Chalgene. I'm here on behalf of the Teachers Association. Mr. Pust had prior arrangements today, so I'm filling in. I want to spend the time tonight talking about student behavior and discipline. And I want to preface this by saying that we have spoken with Cabinet in regards to this just recently, and the district has shown a willingness to want to work with us to address our concerns when it comes to student behavior and discipline. So we want to thank them for that. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure that you guys, the board, heard some of our concerns as well. So education cannot take place if classroom management is not working, right? If closing the educational gap between groups in our district is a focus, then professional development and focusing on instruction, while really important, must be equally as important as teachers partnering with administration to promote and create a safe and orderly working environment or learning environment. Without that safe and orderly environment, education suffers. And so we need to work on fostering that. We all know that the pandemic and the year students spent outside of school has had countless unfortunate consequences. One of those is student behavior. So teachers from every site in this district are reporting increased levels of student behavior issues. And where the real frustration for us comes from is when we don't feel supported by administration in dealing with some of those situations. Too often the response we hear is that we have to be mindful of the dashboard. That seems to be the overarching concern, is the dashboard. Not dealing with the problem, not dealing with the behavior, but again, being mindful of that dashboard. And this is a concern, again, coming from every campus in this district. One example, so I don't want to overwhelm you with incidents or things, but I'll just use this one example, and that's student tardies. We have students in this district that have hundreds of tardies this year, hundreds of tardies. Sites are tracking their tardies in the tens of thousands. That is a lot of tardies. So I've personally spoken to teachers that have basically just thrown their hands up in the air, and they're like, it's not worth dealing with this anymore. Behavior doesn't change if we do that, however. That's not a viable solution. Just ignoring the problem pushes that can down the road, and it often leads to more and increased severity of behaviors from students. I want to be clear that our goal in raising these concerns, it's not just to hand out punishment to students, right? That's not our goal. We don't want to punish students. Our goal is to correct misbehavior. There have to be solutions that allow for mindfulness of what students have gone through, while at the same time correcting behavior and supporting those of us in the classroom, in the offices, and out on the campus grounds. This needs to be a priority. Without first addressing student behavior, we are sacrificing our ability to make inroads into the educational loss that we know we need to address. We need to build upon what is currently working and be willing to change systems and policies where it is not. The teacher's perspective on this has to be taken into account, as we are the ones who most closely work with students on a day-to-day basis. Proper training, support, and consideration of our feedback is a must for any behavior system to be successful. If these things are done, teacher buy-in is more likely and the greater chance of success. With that greater success, we are setting our students up for greater success post-high school, and that is our #1 job, to produce graduates that are set up for success once they leave high school. We appreciate the board taking a vested interest in this issue and asking the district to provide updates throughout next school year on the progress that is being made on this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. CSCA? No comment from CSCA? Okay, then, Mrs. Ham, would you like to read the donations?
Merced Union High School District would like to thank the following for their donations: Adrian Aramburu and Angela Jones, Nuevo Latino Rotary Club of Winton, the Merced Garden Club, Val Fogelberg, Golden Valley Band Boosters, CIF Sac Joaquin Section, the Merced Garden Club again, Mercy Medical Center staff, Golden Valley High School Foundation, Castle Family Health, Michael Alvarez, Janet and Howard Gentry, Kristen Ray Weimer, Natasha Nuthalapati, Merced High School class of 1972. And I think we can all note that scholarship nights are amazing, and the majority of those donations are going towards scholarships, and we really thank the community for all of their support of our students.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Are there any questions before we call for the vote?
I have a question. One of the items in the consent agenda is related to enterprise fleet management. And my question on this, and I may not entirely understand, but this is a transportation on a 4 to 6 year rotation based on leasing vehicles. And typically cars depreciate, but because of the pandemic, cars have, for the most part, appreciated. And so my question is, I know this made sense 4 or 5 or 6 years ago when we got into it, but does it make sense today? That's my question.
Yeah, it's not a typical lease. I'm going to make staff stop using that word, and it's a management program. So we do actually own the vehicles. It's not like we're going to give them back at the end of the 5 or the 6 years. And the equity that we get when we trade them in is based on the value of sale, not what we've actually paid in. So if the value of the vehicles is $5,000 more than it was when we got them 3 years ago, then it's a benefit to us to sell them now and get the new ones now, because we're going to get the benefit of that $5,000 increase. It's subtracted by how much we have left to pay off, but it does go up. So our value and our equity has gone up with the value of those vehicles once they get a value on what they could sell them for.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, We'll call for the vote then, please. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have 5-year facilities plan. Mr. Calderon.
President Pickle, thank you for having us here. I was required to be here. So wrong introduction. All right, let's get to the topic. The Long Range Facility Master Plan has many purposes. It serves to meet the district's legal and procedural requirements when trying to secure sources of funding. And it serves to provide a document for continuous basis for planning educational facilities that will meet the changing needs of each school community. So tonight, I'm going to bring John Smith up here from PBK, the company. We actually hired Sim PBK, but through COVID, was it COVID that? No. Okay.
It was a hostile buyout.
It was a hostile buyout.
Wow.
They just became PBK, and the delay in completing this project has been due a lot to not being able to assemble. But at last, here we are, and Mr. Smith, John Smith, is going to take you through the components of a long-range facilities master plan, and then I'll come back and finish it up, and then I'll give you the recommendation. John?
Good evening. I saw some smirks when he said John Smith. That is my real name. My parents were not very creative when it came to naming kids. I am a partner at PBK Architects, and as Ralph said, when we signed the contract with you originally back in early 2020, we were SIM PBK, and we were in the middle of a merger, and so the people are the same. I'm the same person that started working with you back then. The service that we give is the same. The only thing that's changed is the logo. So I'm glad we got that out of the way. Thank you for that, Ralph. I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about the Long Range Master Plan, give you just a brief overview at the process that we went through to get to this point, and some of the ideas that we have behind it. It's a lengthy document. It's about 5,500 line items of information that we've been working on for the last year and a half to get to this point. I want to thank the executive committee that worked with us very, very closely on this from the district, including Ralph Calderon, Scott Weimer, Melissa Miller, Mark Gottschall, and Jason Perez. They were at many of the meetings, and they gave us great direction. And if you like the report, it was because of them. If you don't like it, then it's my fault. But they were great support, gave us some great direction, and it was enjoyable to work with them. I also wanted to thank. We met with every site principal, and great principals that you have. There were a couple that came to a lot of our meetings. Lee Shaw came to many meetings, and also Kevin Swartwood. And so I want to thank them personally for helping us get through the process. Okay, so now I got to multitask here, right? I go up or down here? Down. Down. Okay, there's our agenda.
Can I ask you to hold the microphone a little closer?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I forgot there's
So
people
at-
behind me.
Well, the ones at home too. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is being recorded. You didn't tell me that. I would have worn a tie.
No, you're live.
I'm live. Fantastic. Okay. Well, no pressure. Anyway, here's our agenda. The first thing, why do we do a facility master plan? Ralph mentioned a couple of those things. We'll go into that a little bit more in a bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the fact of that we did customize this master plan for your district and got you exactly what you were looking for and needing. We're going to look at a couple planning examples, some site plans and things that we did, kind of show you the overall idea behind some of the site planning things we did. And then we're going to look at a cost breakdown and some narratives, some summaries that we give for each of the campuses, and just to kind of give you an overall feel for the process. Why do we do a long-range master plan? Well, one of the things that Ralph mentioned right away is that it's a compliance issue. OPSC, CDE requires it as you go forward, you start looking for some of their funding. They're going to want you to have a long-range master plan to show them that you've done some pre-planning and you've been fiscally responsible. We also needed to figure out that we're able to handle the current and projected student enrollment needs. We want to look at the quality of the existing school facilities. You have districts, you have campuses that are only 10 years old, and you have some that are close to 80 years old. So there's going to be some different existing facilities and such. We want to look at the infrastructure for the different campuses. Not only mechanical, electrical, plumbing type infrastructure, but classrooms. How many classrooms do you have? How many CTE type of facilities? What are your sports facilities like? So we want to look at that kind of infrastructure. Want to make sure that your facilities are promoting the programs that you have at each of the campuses, and that they can work into the future with that. Another reason is to create a continuous comprehensive financing plan. So as you get new funding sources, you know how to use that. If you've got this plan together, it's a very tangible plan, you're going to be able to take advantage of some of those resources that much better and that much quicker. This is from a 40,000-foot level, high level. We don't get into all the nitty-gritty of the planning, although when we went out and looked at the site and created those 5,500 line items of things, we were looking at doorknobs, and we were looking at carpet in every single room. So we did look at some of the small things. But remember, long-range master plan is kind of a snapshot in time. We're looking at things now, but we know in 2 years, and 5 years, and 10 years, and 20 years, things are going to change. And so it is a fluid tool, and it is a very fancy Excel spreadsheet that we can use. We can pivot it, and we can filter it to create all kinds of scope of work types of ideas. And so it is something that will change. It's not wrote in concrete. It will change over the years. So the process. We visited each site 3 to 4 times. Every site. I went to each site at least twice myself, and we discussed ideas, and we asked questions of the sites, and we listened very carefully. That's what architects do. They're supposed to be good listeners. You have to find out what's in your mind. And I'll tell you, your sites had a lot to say, and that's a good thing. Right? I know the principals and Ralph, they chose folks that were going to be communicative. They're going to be a little outgoing, and they're going to tell us what their ideas are. We want that. And so we had a great process and met some great people. And so the first thing we did is we collected data. We went and found as many drawings of your sites as we could. We looked at different site plans and maps. That's a valuable tool that we're going to use. We looked at maintenance reports. You have some great HVAC maintenance reports. Real good idea of what's going on with your HVAC units, your roofing, that sort of thing. So we collected all that data. Then we had some visioning sessions. We met with the site. We talked a little bit to them about what what some of their objectives would be on that campus. What are some of the outcomes? What are some of the things they need to help their pedagogies work, the way that they're teaching and using their campus now? What do they need in the way of facilities that will help them make that a better process? Then we went and we did a facility needs assessment. We went out to every site with a team of about 6. We had a couple architects, we had a mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer. We went to every single site. We walked every single room at every site. We took, I think it's 3,000 to 4,000 photos, because when you get old, you don't remember, so you take photos and it makes it a bit easier. But it's a great tool, and so we have 3,000 to 4,000 photographs that are part of this report, and we investigated each site to figure out exactly what the current situation was at that site. So a lot of that took about 3 months, from June 2021 through August of 2021. We did that. Then we went to we started doing some master planning. So we got every site plan, and we sat down with the different sites and asked them, what sort of new facilities do you need? What existing facilities are antiquated and ready to be bulldozed? Which facilities need minor, major modification? So we have and I'm going to show you an example of the site plan that shows kind of the outcome of the discussion about those types of things. And then once we put an idea of the actual design together, we did cost estimates to show what some of that work would cost. Then the implementation plan is where we're at really right now. We have created scopes of work, we've created narratives, we've created priorities. I don't know how many times we reprioritize things. These guys, we're just trying to figure it out, make some sense of it. We talked to the sites about their priorities. Some of their priorities are a little bit different than a district as a whole, but we came up with a great, I think, plan of attack on our how we prioritize things. So I'm going to show you an example when we went out to the site to do those assessments, the facility assessments. Those are the different categories that we looked at down the left. Civil, building envelope. Building envelope is walls, floor, windows, doors, the kind of outer skin of a building. So we looked at all those elements. Architecture is maybe more interior type stuff, finishes, ADA issues, that sort of thing. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing are pretty obvious. Technology's obvious. Safety and security, you need camera systems. Fencing was a big thing in a lot of sites. And then every time we do any sort of modernization on campus, we have to look at the current ADA accessibility and make sure that we take that up to the current code. Those are a couple sheets that we took out to the site. Those are where we would go in every single room and we'd mark what the ranking or the priority, the rating. Is the carpet, is it 10 years old? Is it tired? Do we need to take it out? Or is it brand new? So we looked at all those different elements and we came up with a ranking type of a system. And then we put that all into the big spreadsheet that I talked about. There's 7 of those 2,500 pictures. We like to always take a shot of the front door, especially if it's got a great logo on it. And so we took all these pictures, and for us it helps us when we get back to our office and we're still prioritizing things and scoping things and putting costs to it. We can go back and look at some of these pictures. These are also great for your M&O staff. They get to look at a couple hundred or a couple thousand pictures before they go to the site. They might be able to determine some things before they go out there. But parentheses, but they're going to look like this. We're going to talk about the grade level, when they were built, current enrollment, that sort of thing. So this is an example of an existing site plan for Atwater. All the buildings are labeled. If it's an admin building, it's A, classroom C, gym, MPR, library, restroom, that sort of thing. Pretty obvious. And then we gave every building a number so that we were able to coordinate that number with all of our spreadsheets and such. And then here is the proposed plan for the next 20 years. Here are some ideas that we have for this campus. And one thing I want to add here is we came up with a site plan, and then we presented it to the executive committee, and then we presented it to the site, and then we revised it, and then we presented it again, we revised it, so we've been honing it in. It is not a, the end all, for sure. We know that there are going to be some changes over the years. There's going to be different ideas. There's going to be different pots of money that are going to become available. So some of the priorities might change. And at some point, the first gym that you have may need a whole bunch of work. But we're looking at places to put buildings, places that make sense to put new buildings. We don't want to, one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to put portables in an area that in 5, maybe 10 years, we're going to put a new building. So if you can strategize, you look at infrastructure, you look at functionality on the campus, where would a performing arts building make sense to go on this campus? Well, we thought it made sense right next to the music building. So, we look for those kind of strategies to come up with kind of placeholders for buildings that will happen in the future. We're also looking at site issues. On this campus, one of the big issues was the parking. They do not have enough on-campus parking. So we found an area that we thought made some sense where we could put a new parking lot. And so we show that. And again, that's a placeholder so that hopefully we don't locate portables there in the meantime and then have to move them at some future date. We're looking at all site issues too. We put priorities to site issues. You'll notice one thing, that the buildings didn't have priorities because those are all within the classroom. And you'd have to look at the spreadsheet to see what sort of things happen in a particular classroom to create those priorities. So they're not on the sheet. And then this is the sheet that Scott likes the best, or maybe the worst, I'm not sure. But we start putting numbers to all this. And so you can see that priority 1 is work that we're probably going to need or hope to be able to do in the next 1 to 2 years before we retire. Priority 2 is in the next 3 to 5 years. Priority 3, 6 to 10 years. Priority 4, 10 to 20 years. We also created a new column after debating this and working on this. We created a new column, routine maintenance items, because we know every year we're going to go out and upgrade certain things and replace filters and do certain things. And so we have a whole column there. All those items are itemized in that spreadsheet too. So there are some of your costs. One of the things that we have done, these are all in today's dollars. So that 16 million there in architectural, that is today's dollars. Every year we're going to add 8% escalation to that. We also know for the total cost of a project, you've got to add 25% soft costs. And then we also throw in a 7% ADA cost, because when you start touching those buildings, we know that DSA is going to come back to us with some ADA issues. So that's kind of an overall picture. There's some pretty big numbers, and it can be a little bit daunting, but for the next 20 years, that's what we're talking about. The other thing we did is just to help, whether it's a community or the board or whoever, to get an idea of what some of the work scopes are. You can see priority one, one of the work scopes there at Atwater was to replace pool and pool facilities, paint the whole campus, construct new portables. But there's your priorities. You know, if these priorities we work back and forth, upside down, inside out, and came up with this list, and there's your routine maintenance list, and that's it. I know I'm going through this kind of quick. Any questions? Any? Sure.
I just have one. And how often is this plan reviewed to possibly reprioritize if needed?
When you look at priority one issues, as soon as the pool is done, as soon as the campus is painted, as soon as we've constructed those new portables, and some of those you've already approved, right? They move off the list, and then we will go back to the site, and we will look at priority 2 or anything else. You know, just because it's in priority 4, if it's broken and doesn't work, now we have to figure out how to move it to priority 1. The key is this. The key is if things are in priority 1, then we believe we have a funding source to make them happen. Okay? That's really where it ties in. So as soon as those priorities are gone, we go back and we review the plan.
Is it fair to say that the vast majority of things that are in priority 1, as you just said, have already been approved, they're moving forward?
Yes,
Yeah.
you will always have the final say. The site and our team can figure out the details of how to make it happen and make a recommendation to you, but you will have that final say in this plan.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is priority 1 was already determined before this book was ever put together, before you did a lot of your research. But I think what this helps us do now is figure out, okay, we got all that in motion. Now what are we preparing for next, right?
Right.
And I think it's really helpful to see and very well laid out
And it's
staggering in
we're in a
price.
unique time, right? We have a lot of different funding sources, and we want to employ those as soon as possible to benefit kids, and that's what we're doing. But there's going to come a time in the near future where priority
week.
1s or 2s may be stuck there for a long, long time until we go out and look for unique funding sources. I stay away from the B word. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Calderon. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
On, so this is a long-term plan, meaning how many years, just to clarify?
Could be up to 20.
All right, and so, looking at like Merced High School here, I don't see any, and maybe it's for all of them, but is there any, I think I did see one with additional parking, but like Merced High doesn't have additional parking planned or proposed or anything.
They could. They could. Remember, this isn't the complete document. The complete document has, I don't know, 55,000 cells or something like that. But this is what the site identified as something that they would like to push, and that's why it's on there.
And Merced does have
Yeah,
additional.
Merced has two additional parking lots.
Yeah.
One here under the fields where the P1 is,
Oh.
and then one up in the back here.
But I think to Julio's point, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, once we start to see what that's going to look like for football and graduation and everything else, that may shift to a different priority.
Correct.
Parking.
Yep.
Correct.
For
And-
sure.
And that will be worked between the site, with input from the community, and then us trying to find resources to make that happen.
So not in here is the new district office and the new CTE site, right? So that's more money needed.
Yes.
And I'm thinking in our next revision, that will be included.
Yes, this is a live document. What you're getting is a final document of a draft, right? Because it's an ongoing draft. But I think the protocols that we put into place, where we listen to the sites and then we go and try to find the money to make it happen, is a good protocol.
So El Capitan, I noted in this document, has capacity stated at 2,000 students. I don't know if the rest of them do, I didn't see it, but I'm curious, is that something that we could see, is what we think, where we would be bumping up at max capacity, and when we need to include a new site in here as well?
Yeah, I think we're going to be doing a demographic study in the next few months to, we've been growing at, which is opposite of what California has been doing. And we need to figure out whether that was a dynamic of COVID or if it is something that our county and our valley is growing. And so we need to do a demographic study to be able to advise you on when it's time to build that next school and where.
And is that correct, that El Cap is maxed at 2,000 students? Or?
I think there's always some room there. I know we've already talked about adding 4 more portables and trying to locate the infrastructure and best geographical location and all of that to put those in there.
That's not a hard number. That number's always flexible.
But that school, more than the others, does not have any room. Once those first set of portables go in, there's pretty much nowhere else to put them on that campus. You're out of room very quickly.
Yeah. The superintendent recommends the board approve the 5-year facilities plan.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Hey, Ralph, how often will you guys meet to review this plan? Because obviously, things are going to be changing here in the very near future, whether it's the district building, the CT, like Aaron mentioned, possible adding of a high school. I mean, priorities across for us are going to change. These are site-specific priorities for their sites.
Correct. And the same principle will apply. We'll go out, we'll meet with the site, and we'll try to identify a funding source. And once we do that, then we can move it up to priority 1. What I don't want to do is go out and meet with Marcus and say, all right, buddy, that stadium's coming anytime now. It's there, right there. Look at it, priority 1, and we don't have a funding source. We want to get things done.
So the other question to follow up with that, to clarify, this is a live document, which meaning we vote on it now, but it's still going to be open to change.
100%. Really, all that you're doing tonight is approving a 5-year facilities long-range master plan, so that when we do go apply for funding, we have this document that's board approved, and we can stand in line with our hands out and receive the money that we're eligible for.
And then we'll have periodic updates as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions before we call for the vote? Okay, we'll call for the vote then, please. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have development fee study, proposed fee increase, and public hearing. So we can have the update from Melissa first, and then we'll open the public hearing, and then we'll have our discussion.
In 1987, the state legislature created a system allowing fees to be levied on new construction. The fees benefit school districts by providing funding that is used for construction and reconstruction of school facilities to accommodate students generated by new development. The law calls for the maximum fee to be adjusted in each even number year to compensate for inflation and the cost of school construction. In order to charge the fee and any allowed increase, the district must prepare a study to justify its need to charge school facility fees. The maximum level 1 fees authorized by the State Allocation Board were increased in February 2022 from $4.08 per square foot to $4.79 per square foot for residential development, and from 66 cents per square foot to 78 cents per square foot for commercial industrial development, of which 2/3 goes to the appropriate elementary school district. If approved, the district's 1/3 share of the fees would increase from $1.36 per square foot to $1.60 per square foot for residential development, and from 22 cents per square foot to 26 cents per square foot for commercial industrial development. The district employed Odell Planning and Research to prepare a fee justification study in 2020. The 2020 study justified greater fee amounts than the currently proposed increase in the district's share of the fees in 2022. Given this fact, and that the factors used in the study supporting the charge of fees are even more favorable in 2020, i.e. increasing enrollment and increasing development activity, there was no need to prepare an updated study. The existing study provides the justification needed to increase the fees. The public was notified of a public hearing on the fee justification study and proposed fee increase in the Merced Sun-Star newspaper on April 11, 2022 and April 29, 2022. Development fees collected for school facilities are used to fund and acquire portable classrooms, plan future school improvements, build and renovate classrooms and other school facilities, and otherwise enhance the ability of schools to accommodate students from new development projects. I'm going to drop down to financial implications. If approved, the district's 1/3 share of the fees would increase from $1.36 per square foot to $1.60 per square foot for residential development, and from 22 cents per square foot to 26 cents per square foot for commercial industrial development. The proposed 24-cent per square foot increase in the district's share of the fees for residential development would result in a fee increase of, for instance, $480 on a typical 2,000 square foot home. So we can now open for the public to address this item if there are any comments.
We will open the public hearing at 6:52. So at this time, the public is invited to comment on the item. No comments? Then we'll close the public hearing at 6:53. Are any questions for Melissa?
My question is, how
Oh, sure.
quickly does this go into effect?
It would go into effect, I believe it's June, so almost that quickly. Any other questions?
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if there's no other discussion, then we'll call for the vote. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I might as well continue here. Item 14.03. On May 1st, 2005, the East Merced County Public Facilities Financing Authority was founded between Weaver Union School District, Merced Union High School District, and Merced City School District. On June 13th, 2006, the authority established the Community Facilities District, otherwise known as CFD, of East Merced County Facilities Financing Authority, District number 2006-1. and held an election with area of the CFD to authorize special taxes and the issuance of bonds or other debt up to a maximum principal amount of $8 million. Pursuant to Article 3 of the JPA agreement, Weaver Union School District unilaterally withdrew from the authority by adoption of resolution on March 9, 2022. Respectively, Merced Union High School District accepted said withdrawal by adoption of resolution number 11-21 on April 13, 2022. And Merced City School District accepted said withdrawal by adopting resolution number A-5-2021-2022 on April 12, 2022. In response to Weaver Union School District's withdrawal from the JPA, it was necessary to amend the JPA agreement. Also, pursuant to Section 6.6 and Section 5.1 of the JPA agreement, MUHSD and MCSD may amend the JPA agreement to delineate the breakdown of special taxes more clearly to define the rights of the parties. It is the desire of MUHSD and MCSD to amend the JPA agreement to delineate the parties' rights with respect to the CFD. The superintendent recommends the board adopt resolution number 16-21, approving the First Amendment to the joint exercise of a powers agreement forming the East Merced County Public Facilities Financing Authority.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion, questions? Okay, we'll call for the vote then, please. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, next, we have MUHSD and MUHSD-TA initial proposal for 2022-23 negotiations. Mrs. Ballinger.
Good evening. The Educational Employment Relations Act requires the district and its bargaining units to sunshine their initial proposals prior to commencing negotiations. The sunshine process is described in Government Code Section 3547. The district is required to present its initial proposal at a public meeting to enable the public to become informed and have the opportunity to express public comment, which was done April 13th, 2022. Nothing has changed since that report. Following such public comment, the governing board must adopt the district's initial proposal at a subsequent public meeting. So please consider the following items for sunshine for MUHSD. Article 11, work year and hours of work. Article 22, fringe benefits. Article 23, remuneration. And in addition, the district requests that the parties mutually agree to examine the teacher evaluation system redesign MOU from November 12, 2015. And also, please consider the sunshine of the identified interests of MUHSD-TA. Article 20, progressive discipline. Article 22, fringe benefits. Article 23, remuneration. And then the association requests that the parties mutually agree to examine and include in the body of the collective bargaining agreement the existing MOUs where applicable. The association is also open to multi-year agreements with limited reopeners. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Trustees approve the district's proposals as sunshine for the 22-23 negotiation process with MUHSD-TA.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Any questions or discussion? Call for the vote then, please. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next, we have revision to Board Policy 5141.21, dispensing medication to students and monitoring health conditions. Mrs. Johnson.
Good evening. Tonight I bring before you CSBA's 2019 update to policies related to dispensing student medication. These updates include provisions for administering naloxone hydrochloride, otherwise known as Narcan, to students in the event of a suspected opioid overdose. In addition, the policy allows for parent administration of cannabis by prescription for certain medical conditions. I just want to clarify the update around the administration of cannabis. Prior to 2019, if a doctor prescribed cannabis, the student had to be taken 1,000 feet from the school, and the parent had to administer the medication away from the school site. Senate Bill 223 now allows for parents to administer cannabis at school if there is a prescription. School personnel, including nurses, cannot administer this medication. It cannot be stored at the school and can only be administered by the parent. The cannabis cannot be dispensed in smokable or vapable form. This is an extremely rare situation that I've only come across a handful of times in the last 6 years, and typically is due to severe seizure disorders. This portion of the board policy can be rescinded at any time if there is risk of loss of federal funding. The superintendent brings before the Board of Trustees revisions to Board Policy 5141.21, dispensing medication to students and monitoring health conditions, for first reading with the possibility of adoption.
I have a question and just want to get the board members' feelings on this, if we can maybe have a discussion to see if we are comfortable with waiving the second read and adopting it this time. The question I have, Mrs. Johnson, is paragraph 6. I believe, unless I misunderstood, it's lengthy, you said not in vapable form. Okay, so this highlighted paragraph where it says the parent guardian of a student, it references Ed Code 49414.1. It says excluding medicinal cannabis or cannabis products. Okay, so it excludes those. Okay, I had misread that earlier. All right. Answered my own question. Thank you.
That was easy.
Is this actually optional, or is this a state mandate?
The cannabis portion is optional. Actually, both of them are optional. But I will say that I've had a few students that have needed this. It's extremely rare. We did have to work with the lawyer on how to do it because it was before 2019. So this just helps with that.
In this administration of the medication would take place, in the office.
Yeah, it would probably
privately,
be in the nurse's office
right.
privately, yes. And again, it can't even be stored there. The parent has to immediately remove it from campus.
And for this, it says it should provide a written medical recommendation. This would be like an actual real doctor.
Yes, and then we get a release of records. We actually speak to the doctor.
He's right. He's a doctor too, and he's right. But medical doctor.
Medical doctor. Thank you.
Thanks for.
Just wanted to clarify and make sure.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve Board Policy 5141.21 and waive the second reading.
I second the motion.
Any other questions or discussion before we vote, or concerns with waiving the second read?
So just to further, I know we're kind of made a joke of it, but we're not gonna take something that we.
Even if the orders came to the school would not proceed without contacting me first, and I would verify that it's legitimate.
Thank you.
So how does this work? It seems like this would be in an emergency situation, right? So
we had a student several years ago, severe, I don't know if it was epilepsy, but it was a severe seizure disorder, and they found the doctor through lots of different medications. This is what the student responded best to. So we got a release of records. We talked to the physician in Stanford. We went through everything. It was not taken lightly.
Right, but I guess the naloxone is, the Narcan is for students who are suspected of having an opioid overdose. A parent's not just going to have that sitting around.
No. So we have right now on campuses, we have epinephrine. So if a student has a severe allergy, even if we don't have orders to administer that for a student, we are allowed to administer it as an emergency med, and the same would be with the Narcan. So we would have it supplied at every school, and it wouldn't be prescribed to a particular student. It would be prescribed to the school, and we would use it in the event of a suspected overdose. And if we think that somebody has an overdose and we accidentally administer it and they aren't really overdosing, there are no side effects at all.
And so the training would be for the health services staff.
That's correct.
Are there RNs on every campus?
We have an RN on every campus as well as a health aide.
So there would be strict procedures, documentation, follow through, follow up on all of
Absolutely.
this.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions? So I think we have a motion and a second to waive the second read. So we'll call for the vote then, please. And Mrs. Ham made the second.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, next we have revision to board policy 4040, employee use of technology. Mrs. Garman.
Good morning, good afternoon. Waiting for the mic to come on. Good evening, everyone. I want to explain that the proposed revisions to the next 3 action items are all related, and it really boils down to proposing the elimination of the signing and turning in of a physical document. It in no way implies or seeks to remove accountability measures for appropriate use, eliminate the criteria for appropriate use, anything like that. Those said criteria and consequences for accountability are addressed in our parent-student handbook. They are covered in admin chats annually when they visit classrooms. They are covered by various staff in situational, circumstances in the library and whatnot. So it is simply boiling down to removing this more cumbersome kind of practice that's been in existence that is really no longer relevant to what it once was relevant to. The proposed revision to Board Policy 4040, employee use of technology, would remove 2 main things: the reference to a responsible use policy and agreement as language there, and the requirement that employees acknowledge in writing that they have read and understood the expectations and guidelines for responsible use of the district's technological resources. If the proposed revision is approved, it would make Board Policy 4040E, the exhibit part, the actual contract part that they sign and submit, it would make that obsolete. No signed agreements would need to be collected. The expectations and guidelines for appropriate responsible use of the district's technological resources are clearly detailed in Board Policy 4040's administrative regulations, which will remain unchanged. The superintendent brings before the Board of Trustees revisions to Board Policy 4040, employee use of technology, for a first reading with possibility of adoption, thereby waiving the second reading.
So again, are there any questions or discussion or concerns before we take a motion with the possible waiving of the second read?
I do have a question. What is the reason for not requiring the signature anymore?
It's a lot of work to track down all of that paperwork that we've been pushing on an annual basis, collecting all of that, tracking all of that, entering that information to check off who has signed the agreement. And really at this point in time, since we have evolved to be a one-to-one district, and it's an expectation, institutionalized practice in our district to utilize technology in the manner that we do every single day, it's really not relevant anymore. Whereas once, a decade plus ago, we weren't, a Google Apps for Education district. We had laptops and Chromebooks on carts that got checked out by certain people. It just wasn't. Now we're fully invested, and it's an expectation. So all of that language is built into our our daily practice.
Thank you.
So it basically eliminates the paper shuffle.
Yes.
In a nutshell.
Yes.
And it's not required, but it's always recommended as a refresher, you know, for staff and for students. So I guess my only comment is that, as you mentioned, that it still be, you know, front of mind, you know, reminders for staff and then for students that we're going to see next, what those safe practices are, you know, just the online etiquette that we're
Yes.
trying to not establish maybe at this point, but continue and improve, especially with some of the current conditions that staff and students both be reminded what's proper and what's not, even if they're not
Absolutely.
signing their name to it.
It's by no means a one and done kind of conversation, as you said, to keep that front of mind throughout the course of a year with staff and students. Reminding of responsible, ethical use is, of course, a priority. We want safe conditions and moral, ethical behavior out of everyone. So definitely a focus out of my office to campaign that.
And if someone does abuse that technology, then at that time, would you require a signature saying, hey, you know, we're writing you up and here, you gotta now sign a document saying that you're gonna follow this?
Those situations would be handled according to the exact offense of the nature, and would consequences of that would come out of the investigation to see exactly what happened. Every situation's not the same.
I have a question specific to students. Should I wait till we get there?
Sure. Well, if you like, whichever.
Well, if there's no more questions, aren't any more questions on the employee part, then we can go ahead and vote on that and then move to the student.
So I'll make a motion to adopt revisions to a board policy 4040 and waive the second reading.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, we'll call for the vote then, please. Okay, motion carries 5-0. So now we have the student use of technology.
Revisions to board policy 6163.4. The proposed revision for board policy 6163.4, student use of technology, would remove first the reference to the district's acceptable use agreement language, and B, the requirement that students and their families acknowledge in writing that they have read and understood the expectations and guidelines for responsible use of the district's technological resources before students are authorized to use district resources. Currently requiring a signed agreement before students are authorized to utilize district resources only delays students' access to the instructional resources. Our MUHSD legal consultants have confirmed that having a signed responsible use policy is not required. If the proposed revision is approved, it would make board policy 6163.4E, the actual contract part, obsolete. No signed agreements would need to be collected. The expectations and guidelines for appropriate responsible use of the district's technological resources are clearly detailed in board policy 6163.4's administrative regulations, as well as the MUHSD student handbook. Clear expectations for appropriate behavior and handling of the district's technological resources are also covered annually with students when site administrators visit classrooms. This really held students back a lot in that collection process and paper monitoring process. Because of that, before we get this, you can't have your Chromebook. And Google accounts were suspended, sometimes a week or two into school. Sorry, or you're getting a daily loaner with some emergency kind of waiver or something. And it was really a cumbersome, clunky process, you know, for kids to just kind of get going with the school year.
And that's what it had turned into, so. The superintendent brings before the Board of Trustees revisions to Board Policy 6163.4, student use of technology for a first reading with possibility of adoption, thereby waiving the second reading.
Mrs. Ham, did you have a question on the student policy?
Yeah, my only question is, this does not change that students are responsible for returning a non-damaged Chromebook. It doesn't eliminate the option to get insurance on their Chromebook and that sort of thing. This is just elimination of the document that they have to sign. Okay.
That is correct. Insurance for next school year has gone on sale. That typically starts around this time to lead into summer school and device use during the summer. So that is out there for the next year's policy already, and students are still placed on obligation. If they misuse, mistreat, damage, lose a device, that still is facilitated by the library staff and goes into ARIES, and all of those accountability measures still stay in place.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, and is there a motion to approve and waive the second read?
I'll make a motion to approve revisions to Board Policy 6163.4 and waive the second reading.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, we'll call for the vote then, please. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, Mrs. Garman, last one. Board Policy 6162.7, use of technology in instruction.
The proposed revision to Board Policy 6162.7, use of technology in instruction, would remove the requirement that students and their families sign and return the district's distance learning policy and use agreement, or DLP, before they are authorized to use the district's technological resources. Currently, requiring a signed agreement before students are authorized to utilize district resources only delays students the necessary access to instructional resources. MUHSD legal consultants have confirmed that having a signed agreement is not required. Superintendent brings before the Board of Trustees revisions to Board Policy 6162.7, use of technology in instruction, for a first reading with possibility of adoption, thereby waiving the second reading.
Okay, again, any questions before we call for a motion? Okay, is there a motion to approve and waive the second read?
So moved.
Or second?
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. We'll call for the vote then, please.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Garman. Okay, next we have Superintendent's report. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, President Pickle. First, I just would like to informally comment on the evaluation of the superintendent goals, and I want the board to understand that it is my direction that staff take their time on that. If we're going to be evaluated, that means staff is going to have evaluation metrics. If staff is going to have evaluation metrics, they need to be involved in the process and understand that, and we need to bring them along with regard to every goal. As you heard from Mr. Shalgene tonight, that's generally going well. So we want to keep that going well, and we also want to keep teachers in the classroom until the end of the school year, because everyone has all missed plenty this year. So I ask you to be patient. Some of those may be ready in June. Some of those may not be ready until September. I want to congratulate Livingston High on their band review this past weekend. Looked as though everyone pitched in from students and staff and local leaders and community partners. It was a great day that Livingston can be proud of. Hats off to Mr. Leverett and Mr. Jolly for organizing a great event. Also want to congratulate all the students who were recognized for attaining the state seal of biliteracy. Mastering more than one language is no small feat, and it makes you highly marketable when it comes to college admissions and potential employers. You should be very proud of yourselves, and I always enjoy going to that event and sharing my personal story and perspective on that awards night. Scholarship nights are currently taking place around the district. I had the honor of attending El Capitans and Atwater Highs. Over $1 million was given away at each of these events, and that deserves a round of applause. To say that these students have been through a lot over the past few years would be an understatement, yet they have persevered and got it done both in person and in distance learning, and now they are reaping the rewards. So congrats to all of them. MUHSD was recently recognized both statewide and nationally for its green efforts. In fact, we are the only school district from California to make the U.S. Department of Education's Green Ribbon Schools list. Well done, Mr. Weimer. And that is for innovative efforts to reduce environmental impact and utility costs, improve health and wellness, and ensure effective sustainability education. A big thank you to staff and teachers and students for being good stewards of the environment, and of course also to Mr. Rivero at Yosemite High School, who leads this cause. At this time, I would like to introduce the next principal of Atwater High School, Alexi Parley. Oh no, you have to stand up, and I think you have your intro speech ready for the board. Don't you want to come up to the mic? No, I'm just kidding, but but you can come up if you would like. Board members, any comments, wishes of good luck for Alexi?
Congratulations.
Back to your roots. I'm sure you're proud to be a Falcon again.
And you're already wearing blue.
Yep, very nice.
Congratulations.
Congrats to Alexi. We were very proud that we had such a strong pool of applicants for that position. We thank Mr. Theodosio for his 3 years of service to the district, and we wish him all the best and a new position, district position at Hillmar Unified. And on the personnel side, last but certainly not least, this will be Sam Iniga's last meeting with us, as he is moving on to the UC as Director of Public Relations. Sam's value to the district has been beyond what I could have anticipated. His professionalism, his innovative spirit, his calm demeanor will be missed. Thank you, Sam, for pioneering and filling a much-needed spot in our district. Lastly, I want to encourage the board and cabinet to participate in the senior interviews that are being held at all sites the rest of this month, mostly in the next week. This is a great opportunity to talk one-on-one to those who have gone through the Merced Union High School District experience and ask them about it. I can't think of a better way to gauge how well we are preparing students for life than asking them face-to-face about their experience. You also get a chance to provide your own life tips and impart some wisdom. It's a rewarding experience, and thank you all, and we all are looking forward to great graduations.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Board Communications, you want to start us off, Mr. Valdez?
Sure. So, just want to say great job to Livingston High School for the first band review. Mr. Leverett and the Livingston High School Band Boosters, they did a great job. They reached out to the community, and a lot of the community came out and supported it. So that was great. I think it was the first in, I don't know, more than 25 years in Livingston. So they did a great job, and thank you, Mr. Jolly, for supporting that. Also, same at Livingston High. They did a great job with the Cinco de Mayo celebration. There was a lot of participation, a lot of I was surprised. Normally students are embarrassed to get up and dance, but man, there was a lot of people. They even had a kind of a quinceañera dance for those who missed their quinceañera during COVID. So that was pretty cool. That was awesome. So great job to Miss Moran, the Spanish classes, and Miss Moran and Miss Briones, and everyone who supported that as well. And again, Mr. Jolly, thank you for supporting that and being there. That was a great job in Livingston. Congratulations, Sam. And good luck. I don't think you need luck, but good luck at UC Merced. And thank you for doing a great job while being here at the district. And also, great job in the job before that. And then thanks again to all who are here, whether you're required to be here or you're just here. I think most everybody that's left here is required to be here. But thank you all, and good night.
Thank you. Mrs. Ham?
There's so many exciting things going on district-wide and community-wide, and it's fun to be a part of as much as feasible. It's busy, busy May. I really appreciated the comments on the safe and orderly classroom requests, but beyond that, teachers saying, give us the tools, teach us so that we can be better at our jobs. And I loved hearing that the district is already working on that. So those were great comments. Congratulations, Mrs. Parley. Good luck, Mr. Theodosio and Sam. I'm wondering if the district is looking at all into a broadcasting or social media type pathway. I think that's something that students would be really excited about, and maybe then with some district oversight, each campus could take charge and students could do some of that work. I don't know, just a thought. I'm going to give a brief PSA for the Virginia Smith Trust, because I don't know how many people are aware. I certainly was not. The Virginia Smith Trust has been in existence for 47 years, and this is the first year that it's ever been awarded to high school seniors. At the moment, they have to be a resident of Merced City and have attended one of the Merced City high schools. But it's being expanded to incorporate Merced County. And this is not a what if or maybe. This is going to happen. Next month, the county will approve a major project out adjacent to UC Merced. And by 2025, $1.5 million from the Virginia Smith Trust will be available to Merced City high school graduates. By 2027, it's not very far away, $4.5 million, and by 2035, $10 million. And to put that into perspective, I think just about any kid that wants to go to college will have their way paid. With a 2.8 minimum GPA, at this point is what I understand, students can apply and get that funding. It will bring jobs and industry here, because there's not very many other places that you can go and say your kid has this option for a scholarship. And there was actually an article, I think it was in CNN yesterday or today, saying that there's a foundation that went to third graders some years ago and said, college is paid for. If you want to go to college, college is paid for. And it just changed the trajectory for those children, because it was no longer a, I wish I could. It wasn't a financial strain. It was, I know that I can if I choose to put in the work. So I just think it's a remarkable effort by Steve Tejan at the Merced County Office of Education, and Adam Gray was involved in pushing some legislation, thank you, through to make that happen. And I know that this is going to be just massive for the kids of Merced Union High School District. So I look forward to this kind of quiet thing happening, becoming a very, very big deal for our community and all of our students.
Thank you.
One last question,
Oh.
sorry. The CCAP program at Merced College, is that something that is being publicized to incoming freshmen? Are they made aware of that, so it's an option? Does anyone know? Yeah.
Yes, it is. It has been part of the orientation as students are coming in, and I know several campuses have had those events here recently.
So it's part of orientation in August, or it's part of now? So that
Currently.
Okay.
Many campuses are having students come on campus. It started back in January, February, where students were visiting campuses and parents were invited on campus.
Okay, thank you. I love Mr. Knott's energy. Everything that's happening at Merced High is really fun and fantastic, and it's kind of interesting how the principal reports change, as the year goes on, and how different it is when your report is in August versus May, right? So it's just fun to hear the energy and all of the exciting things happening here.
Thank you. Erin, when is that residency eligibility changing for the scholarship?
Hold on, I do have it. Sorry, I had it pulled up. 2025 is their goal. That the money would be split. The money would be split starting in 2025. They'll have $1.5 million, and half of it will go to Merced City, and the other half will go countywide. So Merced City still gets the bulk of the funding, and then in 2027, it jumps to 2.25 million, Merced City, and then 2.25 the rest of the county, and then by 2035, each split the 10 million. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Molly, Mr. Isinga?
First and foremost, congratulations, Ms. Parley. We'll miss you at LCAP, but good luck and best wishes, and then best wishes to you too, Mr. Theodoso. And then Sam, big shoes to fill for sure. Good luck at UC Merced. As a parent and as a board member as well, I appreciated everything that you did, all the innovative things, especially during COVID, to inform the parents and students of what was going on in the district. So appreciate all of that. So good luck. I'd like to say congratulations to the recent Employees of the Year. Merced High's Joel Sebastian, Carl Clinton from LCAP, and then Mandy O'Nate from Livingston High. So congratulations on y'all's awards. And then looking forward to doing senior interviews. I know I signed up for LCAP senior interview. I think it's next week. Really looking forward to doing that in person. And then congratulations to all our graduating seniors. It seems like month of May is very busy in both our school districts. With 3 kids in 3 schools, it's a very busy time for us, but also very exciting. It's been great to see all the accolades and the awards being celebrated in all the different schools. So I'd like to say congratulations to all the graduating seniors. The world awaits you. So, thank you.
I echo everybody else's comments. Thank you, Mrs. Pickle.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Congratulations to all of those that are moving on to new positions, both in and out of the district. Wish you the best. I know you'll do very, very well. And for those of you that are leaving us, we do hope that you stay in touch and come visit us from time to time. I was not able to make Atwater High Scholarship night last night, but I was able to make Livingston High's last week, and I know Julio and Richard, you were there also. And great job, Mr. Jolly, and congratulations to all those seniors. There was one scholarship that that really stood out in my mind, and that was the Amazon, the Future Engineer Scholarship. And just the wonderful opportunity that presents to that recipient, not just the monetary value of the scholarship, but the paid internship that comes with it, and what that will mean for that particular student moving forward, and just the bright future that they have. And that was the second time a Livingston High graduate received that award in the past couple of years out of, I think it was 27,000 high schools. So very, very impressive, and congratulations to both of those recipients. I do hope to attend some upcoming events, and really looking forward to having full graduations again this year. I know it's a very busy time for all the site staff. It's an exciting time, but thank you for everything that you do for all the students and for our graduates this year. And if there are no other comments or questions, we'll call it a day. 7:36. We'll adjourn.